I got my tooth taken out. I got a tooth extraction last week, and it's been almost a week now, and I'm still in the aftercare process, and I hate it. I fucking hate it. It's been almost a week, and I'm still trying to train myself to eat on one side, on the side that, like, I can eat on both sides, but that's the problem. I don't pick a side. I often eat on one side, but sometimes the food will just travel to the other side, and normally that doesn't bother me, but in this particular case it's starting to make me cringe a little bit, because now food is getting lodged up into this fucking gap. But I didn't realise how complicated, not complicated, but just how long it takes for a tooth extraction to heal. And it's not so much that, like, I understand that things take time to heal, but there's stages to it. So I had a baby tooth up in my top left corner. I don't know the map of the human tooth thing. I don't know what a molar is. I don't know where it is. I don't know what they're all called. I don't pay attention to that kind of thing. But I had a baby tooth up in the top left corner, in between two back teeth, and it was kind of high up into my gum, and it was out of sight and out of mind for the most part, and I just ignored it. But it got to a stage now where I noticed that there was a crack up there. I was able to feel it with my tongue, and I'm sorry if this is going to be a disgusting topic just before I get into this podcast, so if you don't want to hear it, you can fast forward to the next topic. I'm pretty sure there will be timestamps on this episode, so skip to the next one if you don't want to hear anything like this. I know it's revolting, but I like to talk about this kind of shit. But anyway, so I had a baby tooth, and it ended up being cracked up on the upper part of the tooth. And now, it didn't bother me that much. I didn't really know it was a crack until about a few weeks in, before I actually noticed that the colour of it started to darken. And I was like, why is that tooth starting to darken? It wasn't painful, it wasn't sore, it wasn't sensitive, it was nothing like that. But it smelled bad. And that wasn't normal, because I brush my teeth thoroughly every day. And I always make sure that my teeth get looked after. I try my best. With the fucking shit amount of types of teeth that I have horrible teeth. And it's just hereditary, unfortunately, but I try my best to look after my teeth, so I'm never punished in that regard. You know, I've never had tooth decay, I've never had a bad tooth from eating bad. The last time I got a filling was years ago, and I don't think I've got any cavities at the moment, because the dentist that was dealing with my tooth extraction said I had no cavities, so that was a good thing. But anyway, this tooth was starting to darken a little bit, and it started to smell bad, and that was not normal to me. So no amount of toothpaste was fixing this. No amount of mouthwash was fixing this, and it was starting to make me a little bit self-conscious. The only saving grace about this is that I'm wearing masks when I'm in public places, so nobody can smell my breath, thankfully, so I didn't really pay much attention to it until I smelled it myself, which was when I decided to do something about it. So I rang up the dentist and basically told them, here, this tooth of mine is cracked, it smells funny, and it's a darker colour. And what she basically told me, it's a classic case of tooth decay. It was basically not getting looked after, no fault of mine, because it was in a spot where I couldn't get to it. Like, there was no looking after this tooth. And because the crack was there, I couldn't get anything in there to clean it. I couldn't get a bristle in there, I couldn't get anything, there was nothing I could do about it. So her recommendation, or I think it was my recommendation, or it was a mutual agreement, that I just get this thing pulled out. So, fast forward to my appointment last week, got it pulled out, and the rest is history, I suppose. She basically told me that it was a decayed tooth, there was nothing worth keeping it, it was no good being there, And then she started walking me through the aftercare procedure. And this was the part that I didn't expect. The last time I got a tooth taken out was probably 2010, I want to say, or maybe 2009. And I don't remember it that much. But, so I got the tooth taken out, and she told me that she walked me through the aftercare thing. The thing that broke my heart the most was that I couldn't touch any hot drinks for about 24 to 48 hours, or at least through the week, and that broke my heart because I am an avid coffee drinker. I love coffee. I have it every morning religiously. The first thing I do when I get up in the morning is I will have a cup of coffee. Without fail, I have done this every single day for the best part of 2 or 3 years. Without failure. I have it at least twice a day. At the very least twice a day, maybe twice in the morning, but so it broke me that I couldn't have a coffee for the next few days, and it started to show. I was starting to get very irritable, so clearly I'm addicted to coffee. But I found an alternative. I was able to drink cappuccino, because I was able to actually read further into it and find out that even though I can't drink hot drinks, I can drink cooled to warm drinks. And the good thing about cappuccino is that you can make it at 80 degrees Celsius, and you can leave it for about 5 minutes, and it will be nice, and it will be not too cold for it to be disgusting, but not too hot for it to damage any procedure going on with the gum area of that tooth extraction. So I was able to drink a cappuccino, but I prefer instant coffee. I prefer proper coffee from Nescafe or whatever. That's what I like to drink. So I had to drink cappuccino for 2 days. Better than nothing. Too creamy for my liking. I much prefer just black coffee. But I got over it. I'm going to talk a little bit more disgusting now. Now, it's normal for the socket to fill up with blood afterwards, and with that it has to kind of solidify or whatever. It's like a blood clot, and that blood clot needs to stay there, and once it stays there for 24-48 hours, it begins to solidify, in which case it covers that extraction zone, and then other materials will start to form, and it's like a mixture of blood cells and skin or calcium or anything like that. It's just a mixture of all this, and it just has the same consistency as any gunk that you'd find at the back of your throat. And that's what was filling up inside this part of my gum. And this is so disgusting, I apologise, but like I said, if you don't like any of this, skip to the next topic, I assure you. This will be over soon. But yeah, so that started to form, and after 3 days I started to wonder, why is this gunk still there, and why is my gum area still sore? And I started to worry a little bit, because this is where I started to look up WebMD. This is where I started to look into Google, why is my gum area still sore? And just like when you look up, why do I have a lump on my leg? It means cancer. Why do I have a lump in my head? It means cancer. Just like that, I've looked at I do apologise for this. I just found out that my fiance, who just had a COVID test, just texted me there and told me that the test came back negative. She does not have COVID-19. So thank God for that. Anyway, I digress. So just like you would look up, you Google for anything related to a lump that you have, and you automatically think it's going to be cancer because that's what Google tells you. Well, just like that, I looked up, why is my gum area still sore 3 or 4 days after the tooth extraction? And the first thing that came on the results was dry socket. And I've heard about dry socket but didn't know what it actually was. So I looked it up, I looked more into it. And apparently a dry socket is when the healing process has basically been interrupted, and that the blood clot has been removed without it healing or without it solidifying, and you are left with this quarry inside your gum, this empty hole that has not been covered. And apparently, because that is exposed bone or tissue or things that should not be exposed, you would be in incredible agony. So much so that the pain would go as far as your neck, your jaw, your eyes, your head. You know, it'd be almost as bad as a fucking migraine, but worse. But it put my mind at ease knowing that, well, it hasn't gone that far, because apparently you would need to be put on an antibiotic to fix that, and the painkillers I'm taking are doing the job. Because my worst pain is when it's in the morning, and sometimes when it's in the evening. Or it's when I'm due to take the next tablet is when the pain will come back. And it got to a point where I was starting to wonder, why am I in so much pain this long after it? And I just kind of forgotten that she injected me twice in this area. That's going to feel sore. And she also traumatized that area by pulling the tooth out. So I keep forgetting about those details. Obviously, it's going to hurt. So I've accepted it. The gunk that was there has actually gotten smaller. So it seems to be settled up to where this area is inside the gum. It's staying there, it's not moving. And it's in the healing process now. So I think within the next week, I think it'll be back to normal, hopefully. But oh Jesus, it's after giving me some battering. You know, I do not like getting my tooth taken out. It's a nightmare. But it is what it is. At least I don't have to deal with any bad breath, smells, nothing like that. After a few days or weeks, I can go back to doing what I was doing and not worry about it. So yeah, that's fine. That's good. I notice when I'm in places, people will notice that I'm Scottish, and they will ask me the same question every time. How long have you been living in Ireland? Or if I'm here on holiday or whatever. And I always tell them I'm here 17 years this October or September or August or something like that. But I'm here basically 17 years. And the first thing they always tell me is, oh, you still have the accent. And yes, at the very base level, I still have the accent. I am Scottish after all, and I will possess a Scottish accent for the majority of my life, I would say, considering I am still around family and they all speak the same as me. But in terms of social media or message boards, it gets quite confusing for people when they see my profile on social media and the like and assume I'm Irish because my profile says that I am living in Ireland. And then they will hear me on my YouTube videos or something or whatever, and they will automatically try to associate that with my accent. They'll associate my accent with me living in Ireland, and they get a little bit confused. And so I'm not calling anyone stupid. It's just from outside of Britain and Ireland, like the Americas or something, if you're not too fine-tuned with accents, if it's not something you pick up on very easily, the Irish accent, the Scottish accent and the Welsh accent all seem to get lumped in together and often get mixed up and muddled up. So I'm basically saying that I am not helping the situation by telling people that I live in Ireland and talking like this, because then Americans and non-Irish people or anything outside of this area will automatically think this must be what an Irish person sounds like, whatever. So let me explain. I do live in Ireland. I've lived in Ireland for most of my life now at this stage, so like I said, it was almost 17 years since I moved here. But I am originally from Scotland, and I was born and raised in a small town called Coatbridge, which is located about 15 kilometres outside of Glasgow, but about 2 miles outside of the Glasgow Council area, or the Glasgow County Council area. Do you know what I mean? In 2004, my mother's immediate family all decided to up and move to Ireland, so we all just followed suit. I was only 14 at the time, so I didn't really understand why we were moving. I just accepted it and went. So I basically just gave you the basic version of how I moved here, but there was more to it. But the thing that has shocked the Irish the most at this point is what I just said earlier, is how strong they think my accent is. And truth be told, this is not what my accent used to sound like. what I'm doing right now is I'm talking in such a way that you can understand what I'm saying while still recognising this person is Scottish. For 17 years, I've had to bend my accent so that other people can understand me. And it has just become sort of permanent at this point. The only time my accent ever goes back to the way it was is when I'm visiting friends and family in Scotland. My fiancée pointed it out to me a few years ago when we came back from a trip there. We were there for about a week. And when we went back home and we were having a conversation or whatnot, she pointed out that my accent is much stronger than she's used to. So I'm going to briefly do what my accent used to be and what it turns into when I visit my friends back in Scotland. So, ordinarily, when I was about 14 or 15 years old, or maybe a little bit earlier than that, what I used to do was I used to get up, I'd go to school Monday to Friday, and then after that, when I would be like at home or something, if I had an empty, which is another word for an empty house, I would normally invite all my pals over and we would just sit and play computer games, play the PlayStation or something. And then, but on a weekend maybe, I would often get pocket money, so that would be my opportunity to go into Glasgow city centre with all my other mates, and we would just look around the place for different things. You know, I would often go into Game or Game Station or maybe Virgin Media stores, and I would buy a video game or something for my PlayStation 2, maybe Gran Turismo 3 or something like that, and we would get the train there and the train back. And I used to talk like this when I first moved to Ireland, so not a lot of people understood what I was talking about, so I had to, through time, I would eventually bend my accent in such a way that now you can understand what I'm saying, as opposed to what I used to talk like, where you can barely make out what I'm fucking saying at the minute. I sound very broad, very slabbery, you know what I mean? So I've ended up training myself to stop talking like this and to talk in such a way that you know exactly what I'm bloody saying. So this is the way I talk right now. This is the way I used to speak, for the most part. You know what I mean? So, how about I put up a poll? Would you like me to speak like this for the remainder of the episode, or the remainder of the next episode? Or would you like me to speak like this for the remainder of the next episode? What would you prefer? I don't know, I'm easy. I can do whatever. Now you know the difference between how I speak now and how I used to speak. How I speak now is much more tolerable than how I used to speak back in the early 2000s. So when people tell me that my accent is still strong, they don't know the fucking half of it, I'll tell you for free. Let's move on to the next topic. I'm going to talk football for a minute. Now please, I know that this is not gaming related, but neither was the last topic and neither was the topic before that. Until I get to the introduction, I'll talk about anything random. But I'm going to talk about football for just a brief moment, and not really the sport in general, just certain aspects about the game that I didn't really know existed. And what I'm talking about is the idea that you need to see. Obviously, I'm from outside of Glasgow. My football team that I have supported from a very young age has been Celtic, the Celtic Football Club, established in Glasgow in the late 1800s, and I have always been a fan for as long as I can remember. I don't really recall a time where I wasn't. And obviously I now live in Ireland, but I'm still a Celtic fan. Do you know? Where am I going with this? Well, there is this opinion lately that I've noticed, and I don't know how long it's been around, but the opinion is, if this mostly came from when I was looking on Twitter and I noticed an argument between an Irish person and an English person. The Irish person in particular is a Chelsea fan, if I can recall. And the English person pointed out that what was it? Something along the lines of, why does an Irish person support an English team if he doesn't live there? And another example of this would be from a few months ago, I think, where I noticed someone was slagging off someone else because they were someone from London that supported Manchester United, and that he didn't live in Manchester, therefore he shouldn't be a fan of Manchester United. And it hasn't happened to me yet. I'm just waiting for that one person to come up to me and say, why do you live in Ireland if you support Celtic, or why do you support Celtic if you live in Ireland? To which I will respond to that hypothetical question of, I support Celtic because I was reared in a town that is famed for being a big Celtic fan community. Not exclusively though, there's plenty of Rangers fans there as well. But I am born into a family that are all Scottish and are all Celtic fans. Well, they're all from the Glasgow area, right? But now that I live in Ireland, I shouldn't support Celtic now because I can't be there to support my local team, as they say. And that's in fact, I would say a better example would be, I do not support my actual local football team, which is Albion Rovers FC. Support is a strong word. I would say if Albion Rovers do well, I applaud them. I follow them on Twitter. I applaud anything that they achieve. That's as far as it goes for me. But I was never reared to support Albion Rovers. Support your local team, whatever, do what you like, but don't decry people for supporting the team if they do not live in the area. That's not really fair. It's not fair because you don't know the history of people. You don't know their history as to why they support these clubs and whatnot. You can't just... There should not be a regional gatekeeping thing to stop people from supporting a team just because you don't live there. That's really silly. I don't know where that came from. It's gatekeeping at its finest. I don't understand it. I never knew this existed until pretty recently, until this year. Just because you live in Ireland doesn't mean you can't be a Manchester United supporter. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Football clubs have fans worldwide, and that's been the way it's always been. Do you know what I mean? It's really silly. So if you're a football fan and you're talking to someone who is also a football fan, supports Liverpool but lives in Ireland, you don't have the right to slag them off for that, because you don't know how they came to support that team. You don't know their family history or anything like that. You don't know if they come from a long line of Liverpool fans where the ancestry dates back to Liverpool people. Do you know what I mean? I'm stretching by the sounds of things, but I just felt I had to bring it up because that's a very silly thing to be complaining over. Very silly thing to complain about. There should never be a regional restriction as to what team you cannot and can support. You know, I could wake up tomorrow and decide to look up Fulham FC and start supporting them. Nobody can stop me. You also do not have to attend the football stadium as to which the team plays at. That's ridiculous as well. So because I don't attend Celtic matches and do not live in Glasgow, I'm not allowed to support Celtic. I have to support... The place I live in doesn't actually have a local football team, so I can't support anybody right now. at least in the professional level. This whole stay in your lane nonsense is just crap. Absolutely crap. Anyway, if this is your first time coming here, then welcome to the GB Gaming Podcast. This is episode 15 for the 7th of July 2021. I'm Dave talking to you on GB Gaming, where video games come first. And we've got a few things that I would like to particularly talk about today. Particularly the Nintendo Switch, and also what I've been playing lately. I'm also going to briefly talk about Pro Evolution Soccer 2022, among other things. So, without further ado, let's deep dive into the latest news in the gaming ecosystem. Electronic Arts denies rumours pointing to TV-style commercials in games. So, in case you're not aware, last week, there was a company called Player One, that's Player One with a W-O-N at the end, where they announced that they were going to partner up with publishers in order to inject TV-style commercials into their games. One of them being Electronic Arts. And EA have came back and basically debunked any rumours suggesting such a thing. And it's kind of strange, because EA apparently signed a deal to do this. And in case you forgot, I'm going to read it again, that says, a company called Player One, like I said, described it as a first of its kind in a game advertisement platform, which have signed deals with companies like EA and Hi-Rez, the developer of Smite, to try to bring TV-style commercials to their video game consoles, or console games. Having tested this tech for over a year, they feel like it's now ready to be implemented. The idea being, rather than just beaming videos to them in the middle of a game, players would be able to view an ad, then, when servers detect that the commercial has been viewed in its entirety, will release rewards to the player. And also, EA signs a deal to put TV-style commercials in games. And then they came back and debunked it. And they basically said, I can't remember what website I pulled this out of, but it says, Electronic Arts has officially responded to rumours circulating on the internet that claimed the publisher was planning to introduce TV-style advertisements in its games. The rumours emerged following EA's partnership with advertising platform Player One from Simul Media. An EA spokesperson said today, following incorrect reports suggesting that we are looking to introduce TV-style commercials into our games, we wanted to clarify that in-game advertising for console games is not something we're currently looking at, or have signed any agreements to implement. Creating the best possible player experience remains our priority focus. And then it goes on to say, the controversy around TV-style advertisements for video games stems from the fact that players who pay full price for a game often spend £60 or more for a full-fledged title, expect to pay for the privilege of not seeing adverts within said game. I fully agree. Advertisements in video games are the most common in mobile games, which are usually free of charge, with regular adverts interrupting gameplay. In this model of advertising, players are generally pushed to make a one-time payment or subscription to stop seeing adverts. And there isn't anything else to the EA response. It just basically says the EA have debunked it and that it's not happening anytime soon. So, where did this rumour start? Where did it come from? And why did they say that they were partnering with EA? So who's lying? Who's given misinformation? I have no idea. So, I guess we should all not worry about it then. Now the EA have debunked it, should we not worry? And it kind of comes across as a little bit of a double standard, not double standard I suppose, just a hypocrisy in general, considering that EA became guilty of implementing TV style adverts in the likes of UFC, which I think they might have removed since, but it doesn't stop the fact that they did it and could still do it going forward. It's just a matter of when they will do it. They will probably catch us off guard. But as it stands, EA have came out and said that we basically don't have to worry about that kind of thing. That remains to be seen, because I don't trust EA at this point. We finally have a release date for the Mr. X Nightmare add-on for Streets of Rage 4. It's coming out on July 15th, and I can't wait. I'm pulling this from Polygon, and it says, the Mr. X Nightmare add-on for Streets of Rage 4 arrives July 15th, publisher.emu announced Thursday, bringing with it 3 new playable characters, Estelle Aguirre, Max Thunder, and Shiva. But wait, there's more, including a new survival mode and all manner of new weapons. And yes, that includes a lightsaber that you can throw like a Jedi. But since this isn't Star Wars, Streets of Rage 4 will likely refer to the weapon as a laser sword or beam blade. A new trailer of Streets of Rage 4's Mr. X Nightmare DLC shows survival mode in action. Players will beat up waves of enemies, earn perks and power-ups, and fight for high scores and high combos. There will be 2 variations on survival.emu said in a news release. Random, which keeps each fight unpredictable through generated runs, and weekly, a series of static gauntlets generated each week. Streets of Rage 4 players will want to engage with survival mode because it will permanently unlock new moves for the existing cast of playable characters across all of the game's modes. Mr. X Nightmare costs $7.99 and drops on July 15th for Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, Windows PC and Xbox One. A separate free update the same day for Streets of Rage 4 will add a training system, new colour palette options, a new Mania Plus difficulty and other refinements. And I cannot wait. I need a reason to go back and play through that game again. And so far, I've played it on Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and Switch, PlayStation 4, and PC. I haven't played the Xbox One version. And it's just a matter of what console will I get the new DLC for? I'll probably get it on either Steam or PlayStation 4 because trophies and achievements. I'm really happy that Max Thunder and Shiva are playable. I don't know if they have their own story. I didn't look into it at in that level, but I, from what I've seen on YouTube and trailers and whatnot, I think it's just another way to play through the original story with those characters. So either way, it's great that they're being added. The new move system is what's intriguing me the most. And again, I didn't really pay much attention to it. In fact, you know what? I'm going to look at the trailer right now, so bear with me for the next couple of minutes. Okay, I've just came back from watching it, and yes, it does appear that there will be brand new movesets to include to your character, which is interesting. I don't think I've ever seen that be put in a Streets of Rage game before. In fact, no, it's never been done, so that is actually quite cool to see. So you'll be able to... Now, if I read it right, I'm assuming it means you can use these moves in other game modes. Yep, that is correct. That's amazing. I can't wait. It just gives you a brand new way to play the game in more ways than usual. So this is a definite day one purchase for me. And at only $7.99, that is an absolute steal. So I'll definitely be grabbing that. So I'm really happy. Yeah. Not much more I can say about it other than if you're a Streets of Rage fan, go get it. It looks like the Nintendo Switch will not be getting Netflix added to its console anytime soon, or at least that is what a certain announcement has led everyone to believe. Netflix was removed and discontinued from the Nintendo eShop for the Wii U and 3DS on June the 30th. Now, I think they were removed from the actual store on December 31st, but as of June 31st, you can no longer use them on the platforms. So it begs the question, will these consoles, or will the Nintendo Switch get the Netflix app in future? We don't know. But it's completely gone now from the Wii U and 3DS, so we don't know if it's going to come to Switch. But I'm pulling this article from NintendoLife.com, and it says, if you're one of the few people that still uses Netflix on your Wii U or 3DS, then we've got some bad news. The service has now been totally discontinued. The Netflix app for both platforms was removed from the Wii U and 3DS eShops in December last year. But if you had the app prior to that date installed prior to that date, it would still function as normal. However, as of June the 30th, 2021, the service has been completely disconnected on both consoles. The following message was posted on Nintendo's customer service portal, and it says, and I quote, the Netflix app was removed from Nintendo eShop on Wii U and 3DS family systems on December 31st, 2020 and discontinued on June the 30th, 2021. Thank you for your support of these applications over the years. End quote. Despite the removal, no Netflix app has been announced for the Switch, despite reports that it's coming. In 2017, there were rumours that the app was ready but needed Nintendo's approval, while in 2018, Reggie said that conversations between Nintendo and the streaming giant were ongoing. While many modern TV sets come with Netflix support built in, and there's a Netflix app available for smartphones and tablets, the ability to watch movies and TV shows on Switch would no doubt be a welcome bonus for many Nintendo fans. And it's, like I said, this is no fucking... Well, I didn't say this yet, but I'm saying it now, but Nintendo are just... They march to the beat of their own drum. They do their own thing. So I think Nintendo will put Netflix on the Switch when they feel like it, if they feel like it. So I'd say maybe hold out a little bit longer. We might see it, but who knows? You know, this is one of those Nintendo are just going to Nintendo. And I'm not surprised, to be honest. I'm really not. So if you're waiting for Nintendo to release Netflix for your Switch, you might be waiting a little bit longer than you were hoping. But never say never. But like I said, Nintendo marched to the beat of their own drum. And that couldn't be demonstrated even more than what I'm about to talk about next, which is the announcement of the Switch OLED model. And it was announced yesterday, on the 6th of July, if I'm not mistaken. And this is interesting because for a couple of years now, we were expecting Nintendo, I don't know where the rumour started, we were all expecting Nintendo to release a mid-generation, refreshed upgrade for the Nintendo Switch in the form of an alleged Switch Pro or Switch XL, or basically a performance enhanced version of the Switch that we currently have, a la PlayStation 4 Pro, Xbox One X, or Xbox Series X. We didn't get that. Instead, what we got was the Nintendo Switch OLED model. And here are what they have done with it. So, this is coming out in October, and they have given us a slightly larger screen, which is now 7 inches instead of 6.4 inches. About 2 centimetres bigger than the current screen. Obviously, OLED. It's got a wide adjustable kickstand, and you can adjust the angle of it to your liking. And it also spans, like I said, it's wide, so it spans the entire length of the console itself, instead of just this little dinky plastic thing that sits on one side. A new dock, complete with an LAN/Ethernet port for wired internet connectivity. Improved audio, not sure what that means. Clearer audio, I don't know. More bassy, I haven't got a clue. 64 gigabytes of internal storage, which is double what the original Switch possessed. And nothing much else. No mention of 4K resolution support. No meaningful upgrades at all. So of all my predictions, only one of them appeared to come true. Well, one and a half. And that being an OLED screen and it being slightly larger. No perform enhancements in the slightest. I was hoping at least, if you weren't going, you don't have to render the games in 4K, but at least allow the games to be presented in a 4K resolution. You know, because at the minute, sit close to the TV that's about 55 inches in 4K, it's going to look a little bit on the but jagged side. But look, overall, I'm not that bothered. But that begs the question, though, will I buy it? That all depends. If GameStop or someone like them does a fair trade-in deal, I will consider it. Other than that, I see little reason to pay full price for this if you already have a Switch. Unless you absolutely have to have a wired connection, in which case, I hope the dock is compatible with the original model. Because I do like to, if I'm going to play any games online, I would prefer to play it with a wired connection. I have that ability right now with my current setup, but I cannot do it with a Switch unless I buy an adapter. I'll get to that in just a second. It doesn't seem to be much different aside from the screen size, but the console itself seems to be the same. I see no reason to buy this at all if you do not have a Switch. Unless they flat out stop supporting the original model and it stops appearing on shelves, which it probably will. In which case, with the lack of any meaningful upgrades in this model, why the $50 price increase? In our case, it's an extra €35, I want to say. The wired connection. You can buy a wired adapter, like an LAN adapter for your own Switch, and it's no more than €25. If you want 64 gigabytes of internal memory, you can buy a 32 gigabyte memory card, which is only about €10. That'll bring you up to that total amount. Slightly larger screen, and it really is slight because it's only an extra 2 centimeters or 0.8 inches. OLED, yeah, okay, that's a better quality screen, but for anyone who plays exclusively or mostly on TV mode, it's pointless. So basically, if you're a Switch owner who has little to no need for a bigger screen, plays on TV mode, doesn't play online, doesn't struggle with storage space, then this is not the upgrade for you. If you're a non-Switch owner, then maybe it's still not for you, I don't know. If you're in it for the games and the games alone and none of the fancy shite, you're better off just buying the OG one. This is more than likely for people who do not have a Switch and are looking to jump in and they want the best experience possible. Technically, yes, this will be the best experience possible. It's a better screen, wired connection, beautiful colour scheme as well. I really do like the white and black. It is nice. It is a nice console. And I've no problem with them bringing out this. Do you know? A better alternative to what you currently have for an extra bit dearer. But if you're someone like me who plays mostly on the TV, it's not a worthwhile investment. Especially if you already have it. If you already have an original Switch. Which is why I think that if GameStop or someone does a trade-in deal, which I think they are, then see what the price is in that. Like I said, only get this if you really must have an OLED screen, LAN adapter, or 32 gigabytes of extra memory. Or if you have a Switch already and you can get on a trade-in deal. Which my local GameStop, I think, now that I mention it, they did say it somewhere on Twitter. I might have just breezed past it. Otherwise, this doesn't seem like a must-buy in my books. It's literally a Switch XL. That's what I predicted at its base level, and that's what we got. I don't know. It's nice that we're getting a better version of the Switch. We are getting a better screen and a bigger screen. We have complained that the edges of the screen are too small. They do not fit the entire, what's the word I'm looking for? Is it bezel? Is that the word I'm looking for? I'm so bad with words. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yes. The borders, the frame, doesn't fit the entire screen, as it were. This one fills out the entire screen. So there's that, if that's what you really want. But bear in mind that it's still going to be at 720p resolution. It's not an increase in resolution, it's just a better picture, at least. Knowing me, I'll probably fucking get one, because I like to have the best version of everything. Even if it's a cosmetic improvement. So, yeah. Vote with your wallet. But this is probably aimed at people who do not have a Switch and are buying into it and they want a... Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like what PlayStation did. And PlayStation did with the PlayStation 1 and the PS1. As well as the PS2 and the PS2 Slim. The Xbox 360 with the Xbox 360 Slim. So on and so forth. It's just a cosmetic refresh. It doesn't do anything with the internal components of the console itself. It just looks different. And that's all it is, really. If you're still waiting on a Switch Pro, then you might be waiting at least another year or two before that happens. I'm going to give it the 7-year landmark, where once we have reached 7 years of the console's lifespan, that's when they will do a refresh or an upgrade. Because with an upgrade, you've got to have an exclusive game, and that's why I predicted that if they were to do a Switch Pro upgrade, it would be in the same vein as the Wii U did with the Wii. So that's what I think they'll do. But if this is for you, go for it. Vote with your wallet. I don't give a shit. I'll probably trade my own Switch against it and get some sort of a decent discount off it if I really want one. At the very least, I could do with a new set of Joy-Cons. I think I might have the drifting issue. I really don't know. There has been a few occasions where I've left it sitting on its own and my character has moved on his own. Is that what stick drift is? Because if it is, then I have it. Anyway, Pro Evolution Soccer. The long-term rival to that of FIFA. Developed by Konami and is the spiritual successor series to that of International Superstar Soccer or ISS Pro, whatever. It's been around since the 90s. It's its own thing. It was a fucking giant throughout the mid-2000s. It fell down a notch after 2008, I want to say. And it hasn't really managed to bring itself back up as meaningful competitiveness to FIFA. Nevertheless, the rumour is that it's going to be a free-to-play title by the time Pro Evolution Soccer 2022 comes out. And I'm pulling this article, Rumour, from pushsquare.com, and it says, the next-gen Pro Evolution Soccer game could be a massive departure for the soccer simulator, as rumours swirl that the series may be poised to go properly free-to-play. Konami has, for the last few years, released PES Lite as a free alternative to the main game, which focuses on the franchise's Ultimate Team mode, My Club. The implication here is Pro Evolution Soccer 2022 will go beyond that. Word comes courtesy of a VGC podcast in which editor Andy Robinson alluded to the Japanese publisher really changing it up with this year's title. He did not elaborate any further and didn't specify a source, just noted that it's what he's heard, but it would certainly represent a seismic shift for the series and sports games in general. In an unprecedented move, PES took a year off with PES 2021 Season Update, effectively releasing a roster refresh while it focused on transitioning to the Unreal Engine behind the scenes. A move to free-to-play could be a concern for franchise faithfuls who've grown to love Master League and the series' other primary single-player modes. How will these be monetised if the rumour is true? FIFA obviously dominates the football game space, and PES has been forced to scrap for a handful of official licenses. But many feel the gameplay is superior in Konami's effort, with more accurate ball physics and realistic artificial intelligence. Recently, it released a rough beta to test the new game's online netcode, but a full reveal is scheduled later this month. Interesting decision. considering they just spent almost 2 years creating the game on a new engine, which costs time, resources, and I'd only assume lots of money. How could they make it all back? That's what it asks. How could they monetize it if you're only a single player enthusiast? The alleged reason for this at its base level is to compete with FIFA, which is ridiculous because they charge full price for its game on top of microtransactions, which is still a huge source of income for EA. I'm talking 6 figures. Konami are making a very bold choice if this is true, going this route, considering even though PES does have a fan base, it's arguably a cult following in comparison to FIFA. It's risky, and I hope they're successful, but I have my doubts, and I can't help but be sceptical about it, especially if Metal Gear Survive is anything to go by. I mean, look at the state of that. Also, as a Master League fan, I fear this will end up going the FIFA route. Like, it's ironic as well that it might do that, because FIFA rakes in most of its money from Ultimate Team, yet they will barely improve the career mode, save for some superficial improvements. Master League is on the same boat, and I cannot see it being fully supported or supported at all once PES goes free to play. As it stands, their only free to play thing has been PES Lite, which I just mentioned, which is basically the game's My Club mode as a free game in and of itself, without the Master League mode thrown in there. It's just been completely taken out. My Club is basically, like I also said, PES's version of Ultimate Team. If they go full free to play, I reckon it'll basically be My Club as the main game, with Master League mode being the secondary tacked on game mode if it hasn't been already. Maybe they'll make Master League paid DLC, perish the thought. They could split the game up into 2. I don't know how they would do that. Like, if you just want to play My Club, just make that PES 2021 or 2022, or if you want the full experience, pay a nominal fee one time, maybe 20 quid. I don't know. Like I said, it's just a rumour. If they do it, I hope they do it right, and I pray that it works out for them, but I also pray that it works out for us as well, those who like to play the Master League mode. It's a very risky move considering Konami is barely in the gaming ecosystem anymore. You know, they've only got a handful of games that they bother with now, with PES being probably the longest running game they've supported to date. But who knows, we'll see what happens. Right, that's pretty much all the news I have been able to muster for this episode. At this point, I haven't got anything else to talk about that I feel is worth talking about. So if anything happens from the time this goes live till the next time, I will cover it on the next episode. As you may or may not know, that's how I do things. Anyway, games I've been playing. The Witcher 3 is literally all I've been playing for the past week and a half. And yes, I haven't stopped. I finally love The Witcher 3. I am thoroughly enjoying it. I want this episode to hurry the fuck up and end so I can go back and play it. It's so good. It's all I've been playing for the past week and a half. I've played nothing else. I am stuck to it. But the longer I've played it, the more I've noticed little things that it's bothersome in such a way, but it's interesting as well. I noticed that if you play low-level quests on The Witcher 3, you'll get almost no experience points for it. It took me about 7 or 8 quests before I noticed I was possibly wasting my time. Also irritating is sometimes you can finish a quest and it'll cause another quest in your log to fail. This becomes quite annoying because the game discourages you from playing too many side quests if you're over-leveled. but will also encourage you to play the side quests because you will otherwise fail it if you proceed with the story. I feel like even though The Witcher 3 is a vast, rich and deep game in terms of scale, mechanics and features as well as the story and lore, it still kind of takes the steering wheel a lot of times in terms of how you wish to play. Like, you can play it however way you wish, but if you do, just prepare for the game to passively aggressively punish you for doing it. You want to be at high level? Okay, well then you're not getting any XP for quests you missed earlier. You want to continue the story? Okay, well I'm locking you out of this side quest because you took too long to do it. I don't know, it feels like the game doesn't really respect my style of play. I feel like I have to check to see what quests I should do and what quests I will not be hurt for if I missed. If it's any consolation though, at least the game tells you what quests you've actually failed and puts them in their own failed category that you can hide if you want, unlike Mass Effect, which will not tell you if you've failed a quest and will instead leave it there in the active quest log, unbeatable, nothing. Speaking of quests, my favourite type of quests have so far been Witcher contracts and treasure hunt quests. I love building up a collection of monster trophies and I love collecting Witcher gear. And so far, my favourite armour has been the Ursine outfit. I think I pronounced it correctly, but the Ursine outfit looks badass. Absolutely badass. I'm currently in the process of getting all the upgrade diagrams for it, but I'm taking my time doing it because, like I said, everything is level locked. In order for me to actually wear the upgrades, I need to be a slightly higher level. So I'm being a little patient with that. I can obviously go and do the quests immediately if I want and beat them if I can, and just have the outfits upgrades there for when I do reach the level I can just put them on. But I want to surprise myself. I don't really want to see it yet until I have it and I can wear it. So yeah, the Ursine outfit so far is my favourite outfit in the game. It just looks amazing. A few other little things I like too, such as your horse behaviour. Like, your horse will behave like a real horse. Well, for the most part. When you dismount your horse to say enter a tavern or whatever, your horse doesn't just stand there like an idiot. More often than not, he'll go and do his own thing. For example, I left a building and noticed my horse had decided to go to the nearest trough and start eating from it. And I also noticed one time I got off the horse in the middle of a forest to go and pick up some loot or fight a bunch of wolves or whatever it was I did. And on my way back to my horse, I found him not in the place I left him in. He was off a few metres away, eating a solitary lump of hay that was just sitting there. The way the AI is built in a Geralt's horse is incredible to me. I just love how independent he is. Though, when it comes to calling the horse, it can be rather irritating as well. Because he'll often spawn in a really awkward position, unable to reach you. And there have also been times where he just does not like tight areas, and it's very difficult to manoeuvre on horseback in small villages. And there have been also occasions where if you hold the gallop button without using the analog stick, he should stick to the road. But more often than not, he'll just leap into another field for no reason and veer into a river. Like I said, when you're not on a horse, he behaves fairly natural, but on the horse, it's hit and miss. What else? I just want to spill more about this game. I suppose I can't get over, I know I keep mentioning it, but I cannot get over the visuals of the game. There have been a few visual bugs here and there, but nothing outrageous or jarring. There have been one or two occasions where the shadows just don't render in properly. Like, the level of detail isn't properly implemented. Shadows on buildings in particular just show up when you're close, but are not that visible from a distance if they're visible at all. And I'm not talking about far distances like miles, I'm talking mere meters. It only happens in certain locations like major cities, but it's nothing horribly noticeable. Like, I'll forgive it due to how much content is crammed in on top of the already beautiful graphics it possesses. Like, the foliage animation still impresses me to this day. Even the cloth physics are wonderfully done. I tweeted about it as well, about how impressive the cloth physics on the Earthsign armour was. But then I couldn't help but compare it to Mafia 2. Now, bear with me. Mafia 2, when it first came out, had brilliant cloth physics for the time. And, like, it was just pleasing to look at aesthetically. And it just adds to the realism in a small but significant way as well. When the definitive edition came out last year of Mafia 2, they completely removed it. All the long jackets that you can wear, they used to flow as you moved, like real physics. But in the definitive version, it doesn't do that. They just stick to the character's body. No cloth physics were re-implemented for the definitive edition. And it just baffles me how The Witcher 3 looks the way it does, has all the content it has, is the size that it is, yet has stellar cloth physics and physics animations in general. Wind physics are among the most impressive. And in the original version of Mafia 2, a game released about 6 years prior to The Witcher 3, they were able to achieve those physics too. Yet somehow they couldn't put it in the definitive edition. Normally things like that don't bother me, but they do when it's supposed to be an improved version of the thing they're making, yet they somehow made it worse. And I don't want to make this a Mafia 2 rant, so I'll stop there, but I feel I had to point it out. It just baffled me, is all. And I guess that's it. I can't think of anything else to talk about. All I'll say is that The Witcher 3 is definitely, probably the best Western RPG I've played in a long time. Now, and I've played Skyrim, and I loved Skyrim. I love Fallout. Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas. Love those games. But The Witcher 3 is a different beast entirely. It took me about 6 years to finally click with the game. Or the game took about 6 years to click with me. And it's amazing. It's technically impressive. It's going to age so well in years to come. And I don't know if they're going to make an enhanced version of it for the newer systems, like for PS5 or Xbox Series X. I don't know if they're working on an improved version of that. I reckon that all of CD Projekt Red's resources are going into improving Cyberpunk 2077. So, who knows? But you could play that game on an Xbox Series X as it is right now and it still looks good. I'm playing on an Xbox One X right now and it looks amazing. And it especially looks good on my TV as well. 4K, OLED, HDR. It looks absolutely stunning. 55 inches as well. I absolutely love it. You could say maybe the TV was the reason I went back into that game, because when I first got that TV, I do this thing when I get a new TV is I start playing all these different games to see how they look on the TV, and one of the games I tried out on the TV was The Witcher 3, because I wanted to see how that game looked on a 4K HDR TV that big, and it looks incredible. And I kept playing it for a little bit longer, and I got glued to it then at that point, and now I can't stop playing. I absolutely love it. The Witcher 3 is definitely one of the best Western RPGs I've played in a long time, next to Fallout 3, New Vegas and Skyrim. Unbelievable. And I don't think I'm going to be stopping anytime soon. I think I have about 50 hours put into the game at this point, and I've still got so much to do. Yeah. So, I think that's it. I think that's it for me now. So before I get to the end of this video or podcast, I just want to say that I apologise for not putting up the usual shtick on the previous one. I normally put up an ending at the end of every podcast, and I forgot to put it in the last one. I don't know how I forgot. I just did. But nevertheless, I'm going to do it right this time. So thanks very much for taking the time to listen to this episode of the GB Gaming Podcast. And if you want to listen to any more of my podcasts, you can always search for me on Spotify if you look for GB Gaming Podcast or GB Gaming, and it should come up somewhere. If not, I'll leave a link in the Twitter feed, which I will be posting very soon. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at GamerBoy89. That's GAMERBHOY89. I do more than podcasts. I do YouTube content as well. I have been doing it since 2007. I haven't grown substantially, but I still enjoy doing it, and I still try my best to put up as much content as I possibly can within the year. And if you want to see any of my content on YouTube, all you have to do is go to youtube.com/gamerboy. That's GAMERBHOY. Again, if you're listening to this on Spotify, all you have to do is look for me on the description, or just Google me. You'll find me on my Twitter account. My YouTube link is there. I'm there somewhere. I do not have any advertisement or anything like that, so I am not easy to find unless you physically type in the name. What else? If you want to follow me on any gaming platforms, I guess that's okay. I'm on the PlayStation 4, Switch, and Xbox One. Now, I'm also on Steam as well, so if you want to look for me on any of those things, if you want to add me on PlayStation, if you want to follow what games I'm playing on that, you can look for me at gamer_boy_89. So that's GAMER_BHOY_89. If you want to follow me on Steam, it's the same idea. Just go onto Steam and look for Gamerboy, no space. If you want to look for me, I think it's no space, I'm not sure. I could be wrong about that. But if you want to look for me on Xbox, it's the same as the PlayStation one, except there's no underscore, so it's gamer_boy_89. And I'm not giving you my Switch code because it's too fucking long. But I'm not on Switch that often, and I certainly don't play games online on Switch either. So I'm on all those platforms if you want to look for me. But if you don't want to do any of that, it's not a big deal. But if you do want to follow me on any of those platforms, just click follow. And if it's the case of YouTube, all you need to do is click follow, hit the bell to get notified for more videos going forward, or any of that shite. But if you don't want to do that, it's not a big deal. I just appreciate you for getting this far in the episode. And with that said, thank you very much for listening to this episode of the GB Gaming Podcast. This has been Dave talking to you on GB Gaming, where video games come first. And that's it. I'll see you next time. Cheerio.